All right, so for today's chalk talk, we're going to watch a video that kind of explains the ladder rung concept for upwind and downwind sailing, right? So ladder rungs, I know when we talked about them in the past, we've kind of crudely drew them on the board, always in a discussion about upwind sailing, but it applies also for downwind sailing. And I think go through this video because and understanding, I think being able to have a real understanding of the ladder rung concept is going to help make the tactical and strategic concepts we talk about with upwind sailing and downwind sailing, but particularly upwind, going to make more sense. I know I've had a couple conversations with Mark Woodall about wind shifts and about why is it that if the distance, why is it that a boat starting on one end versus another end, or going to one side of the course versus the other side of the course, why is it that one will have an advantage over the other? And again, the ladder rung thing kind of helps explain that. So, I don't know, we can here we go.
The salesing video shows the concept of ladder rung.
Again, you guys will listen
using
to
a visual approach to help you
Sounds like
understand.
Ron Swanson.
This topic is too basic for some of you, but we have found many experienced sailors have misconceptions.
See?
So we hope everyone.
Even experienced
learns
sailors have
something.
misconceptions.
We'll use the concept of ladder rungs to help you think about where to start.
Where to start.
Course. from the
Okay, here we go.
This situation.
Okay.
Let's start with
Okay.
a pre-quiz to see how much you know.
Okay.
In this situation, the wind is coming straight down the course, and the starting line is perpendicular to the wind direction. Let's assume the wind won't shift.
Okay.
The race committee has placed the windward mark considerably to the left of center, as you can see here.
Okay.
The question is, which boat will sail the shortest distance to the mark?
Okay. What do you think the answer
Let's
is?
look at the answer.
What do you guys think the answer is?
B.
We'll sail the shortest distance to the mark.
I think A, right? Because A can just go straight to the mark, and B has to tack up.
Can A go straight to the mark?
I think they might just be like
Yeah,
just
they
below.
can. Yeah, they can. What?
I think they might be just below, but.
But yeah, I think they can. I think they can actually. Okay. So we think
So you mean A's on close ball?
right. I think the key term here is distance, not time, not who will get to the mark first, but who is going to sail in total. Who is going to sail more distance? If anybody is going to sail more distance.
Couldn't sail the same distance, no?
Again, we've had this. You and I have had discussions about this, right? And that's right. So, and here's the explanation of why.
Sets the mark so much that A can sail directly to it.
So you're right.
Without
Yes.
tacking. So A's course would look like this.
Okay. And it looks like that.
Let's assume that B sails as far as she can on starboard, and then tacks and sails directly to the mark. B's course would look like this.
Okay.
How do these two courses compare in distance? Let's bring them together.
Oh, you can't. Oh,
You can see that the first two parts of the courses are equal down here. What about the second parts of the course up here?
There we go.
Yes.
If you look closely at these two lines, you can see they form part of a triangle with two equal legs.
Okay.
So the second parts of the course are also equal. So the answer to our question is that both A and B sail the same distance to the mark. Of
Okay.
course,
Okay, so, because the wind, so it doesn't matter that the windward mark is not lined up directly in the middle of the line, right? What matters is the wind direction is is exactly perpendicular to the line. That's why no matter where somebody starts, they're gonna sail the same distance. Now, who would actually likely get to the mark first though?
A.
Why?
Because less tax.
Right, exactly, right? So B has to do a tack. They have to tack. That's slowing them down, then they speed up again, right? A is not doing anything like that. They're just sailing straight. Their speed stays constant, right? Or whatever.
He would also come in on port.
Very good, right? Yes. The other thing too, right, is let's say for whatever reason they did get to the mark at the same time. B is on port, A is on starboard, A has right of way, so B is gonna have to go behind A if they got there at exactly the same time, right? So the thing to realize with this is, okay, they are sailing the same, like this, the distance is the same, the amount of, that they go through the water is the same, but the time that it takes to get there can change based on the fact that one boat has to do more tacks, right? So in that case, B did one tack, right? Let's say, I think they're gonna go through an example, he's gonna say here, well, he's gonna say what we just said, but, so.
both. B will get there later because she has to tack.
Right.
Also, even if they do arrive at the same time, A would have right of way at the mark.
Very good.
But the point is that even with the mark off center, the distances sailed are the same. Now, what if B can't make up her mind and decides to throw in 2 more tacks? Does this increase B's sailing distance?
What's the answer to that?
Let's look at B's one
No,
tack course.
the answer to that is no, right? So it's gonna be the same distance, but they're probably gonna, B is gonna get there even later than A, because now they're doing 3 tacks, right? And each time they're tacking, they're slowing down, then speeding up again, then they slow down again, right? So that makes sense, okay.
This is a rectangle.
This is a rectangle, right?
The
we got
distance
that.
sailed is
All
not
right,
affected.
good. Next.
Now let's use the
Okay.
concept of ladder rungs to understand this better. Picture the course as a set of lines perpendicular to the wind direction, which
We
are
know
called
this
ladder
one.
runners. Sailing upwind is like climbing a ladder.
Climbing a ladder.
As we saw in the last slide, when sailing close hauled, with no wind shifts, and assuming equal pointing ability, all boats sail the same distance between any 2 ladder runners.
Okay.
If we compare these courses just like before,
Yes,
the
they're equal.
distances are equal. For the same reason, where you start or finish on a ladder run does not affect the distance sailed.
If there are no
This may
wind
be hard to
shifts.
believe at first, but it's simply because the boats can't sail directly to the mark, and all the boats sail at the same angles as the other boats going up the course, assuming they're all pointing properly.
Right, so that's an interesting point there as well, right? So this is all in an ideal world. What he just said was very, very interesting, right? So obviously, if wind shifts come into play, this doesn't, but also is assuming that every boat is pointing to the same ability. Right? So does that always happen? No, right? Sometimes, right, their boats might be pointing higher than others, depending on what, how flat they're keeping the boat, how their sail controls are set, right? All that. So there are those variables that come into play as well.
Now let's check your understanding.
Okay, did we do that? Okay,
Use
let's
the head
see.
in this picture. Using the ladder rungs, we can easily see that boats A and B are even with each other, since they are on the same ladder rung.
Makes sense.
C and D are also even with each other,
Also makes sense.
and A and B
Okay.
are ahead of C and D.
Okay.
Now, what if we move the mark to the left? Does this change the answer?
Does it change the answer?
I hope by now you said no, since the mark is on the same ladder rung as it was before.
Right.
You can't actually see the ladder rungs on the water,
Correct.
but if you know your boat's upwind sailing angle, you can visualize them
Okay.
with imaginary lines on your boat. For example, in medium wind, most boats sail upwind at about 45 degrees from the direction of the
Which is
wind.
about true for an FJ.
Imagine two lines, each 45 degrees from the center line of your boat. The 45-degree line to windward shows you the wind direction. The 45-degree line to leeward shows you the direction of the ladder rungs. In the past, some sailors would actually mark these lines on their boats. They're called tacking lines. If you can visualize the ladder rungs, you can
So
tell
does that make
if you're
sense?
ahead or
Let me
behind
just- okay.
someone, such as in a crossing situation. Who's ahead in this picture? Note that the wind direction is not straight down from the top of the picture. So the question also asks you to figure out the approximate wind direction. To find out who's ahead, we simply extend the ladder rung line from either the red boat or the blue boat. The ladder rung line from the red boat is ahead of the blue boat, so red is ahead. To find out the wind direction, we look at the windward 45-degree line on both boats, which both point in the direction of the wind. So the wind is from the upper left. You can also think about ladder rungs to help determine the favored end of the line.
So did that make sense? Okay.
In this drawing, which end of the line is favored, and more importantly, how could you tell on the water? As you can see here, the pin end is on a higher ladder rung,
Which we've drawn
and
this
therefore
before.
is favored. On the water, if you point the boat head to wind
We've
in
talked
the
about
middle
this
of the
before.
line, your bow will point more closely toward the favored end.
Right.
I hope by now you didn't look at the mark to determine the favored end.
Right, so that's important, right? Mark
Some
doesn't
people
matter,
tell you
it's
to
where the
look
wind
at
is
the mark
coming
to
from.
see if you were on the lifted tack. This can be deceiving when you get close to the mark. Which boat is lifted in this picture? Assume the wind was originally straight down the course, but now is shifted.
Okay.
If we look at the imaginary 45-degree lines on our boats, we can see the wind direction.
Did we all know that?
The wind was
Okay,
originally
sorry.
straight down the page, has shifted from the center to the left. Blue is on port tack, so blue is lifted. Red is on starboard and is sailing ahead of her. Red looks like she is pointing closer to the mark, but wind direction and not mark placement determines the lifted tack. Now, you may not always want to sail the lifted tack when you're near the mark, but you should at least be able to tell whether you are lifted or not, and not get deceived by just looking at the mark.
Right, so in this case, that's important, right? So we obviously understand that that the blue boat is lifted because the wind is more from the left, right? And so what he was saying, you don't necessarily, so that means, right, red is sailing the header here, but that's not necessarily bad, because why?
It's bringing it closer to the mark.
Bring it closer to the mark. They're actually, right, if red tacked and it is on the lifted tack, they're so close, they're close enough to the mark though, where that lifted tack is gonna start taking them away from the mark versus where the headed tack is taking them. Make sense? Okay.
Coach.
Yes, go. Go.
Like, so some people, they say, you know, if you're still on the header, right?
Mhm.
Like your boat's just gonna feel sticky and like slow. That's the terms that they use.
Okay.
But, you know, like wind is all relative, right? So like,
Yes.
because it just depends on where you want to go. So then why do people say when you're on a headed tack, you're slow? Like your boat speed is like slow. It's not like you're not making
Yeah,
your way to the mark, but
It-
like it's physically slow. Why do people say that?
I don't know,
Okay,
because it's not true.
that's not true.
No, because it's like you just said. I mean, the wind strength is the same.
Okay,
right? So you'll be going, you're slow relative to where
The mark.
the mark is, right? But you're not, boat speed wise, there's no reason why you should be going, why you would be going slower on a header. If you have,
Okay.
if the wind's going at, wind's coming from here, right, and then, I don't know why I did that, how many things. Right, so, wind's coming from there, so obviously port is lifted, right? Starboard is headed, in this case, and this is this is 12 knots of wind. Both boats, and it's 12 knots of wind uniformly, right? So this puff or this whatever is hitting both of these boats. There's no reason why the green boat cannot go just as fast as the red boat, right? Because they're in the same amount of wind. So they should be able to go, if they're both sailing the boat correctly and optimally, they should both be able to go the same speed. They're just gonna be, the red boat here is just gonna be lifted, and the green boat's gonna be headed. So yeah, if there was a difference in wind speed between them, right, where, if the red boat gets 12 knots of wind and they get in it, first, and the green boat's not in it yet, and the green boat's only in, 6 knots of wind, then yeah, right, the green boat's gonna be going slower, and they'll actually be going slower, boat speed wise.
Okay.
But yeah, no, there's no reason.
So you should never judge if you're on the headed tack by your boat speed, but better always by the angle.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yes. That would be the take home message from that.
Okay.
Yes, it is not about boat. It's not about boat speed. Boat speed. What is impacting boat speed is wind speed, just how you're sailing the boat, right? Your sail trim, flatness of the boat, all of that, and then current, right? Tire current, right? So if you're experiencing significantly more adverse current pushing then yes, you will be going slower than a boat that is experiencing less adverse current, right? But the angle of the wind has no bearing on boat speed.
Okay, so you shouldn't see people on this tack is hiking, so I should get on this tack, because,
Well, hold on. Well, that's a different thing, right? So, not necessarily,
Okay.
but if you see, people on that tack are hiking,
Yeah.
and people on the other tack are not hiking, then you have to do kind of the next analytical step. Then is, that's the reason why that's happening is because of the people that are hiking are in more wind.
Okay.
That's why it's happening.
Okay. So
Nothing to do with the direction,
The region
right?
of the
So
water.
you might want to, you have to figure out, okay, they're in more wind wherever that they are, right? Are we gonna get into the same amount of wind anytime soon or not? Because obviously if they're hiking and we're not hiking, those boats that are hiking are gonna be going faster. We want to be going right? So if you're in a header, but I guess a better example here would be, right? So let's say for whatever reason, right, this is the wind angle, but the boat that's farther to the left and that's on port is in 6 knots of wind, right? And the boat that's headed on starboard is in 12 knots of wind. Doesn't matter that this boat is on the lifted tack. This boat is going to be going faster, and they're going to be going faster on the header. So even though they're headed, they probably will, if there's that much of a difference in the wind, right, speed, they will be able to get across this boat. just because they're going significantly faster because there's more wind.
Okay.
Right, so you gotta, that's why one of the things, like, always gotta be looking for, right, the angle, but also trying to stay in as much breeze as possible. Particularly if it's very up and down, right, if there are areas where there's significantly less wind than significantly more wind, you wanna stay in the areas where there is more wind, right? I'd rather sail a header and be on the headed tack or be on the wrong, headed side or whatever in 12 knots of wind versus be on a lift, but be on the lift in 5 knots. Right, because the boat that's on the header is just gonna blow right by them, because they have significantly more wind. Buckler, you're drawing things on the table there. You good? You good?
Yeah, all good.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think part of it is
Yeah.
also that people tend to like overpoint a lot when they're headed because they're coming from like the lifted tack
Good
and
point, Ella.
expecting the same.
I love that point.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
probably also why they're going slower.
The boat speed.
Excellent
Yeah.
point. Very, very, yes, 100%. Right, so a lot of times, yeah, when you're headed,
Yeah.
and everyone's guilty of this, right? Me included a lot, right? You're, Jeff, hi. Yeah, you're frustrated because like you want to be able to point higher. So like if I'm this green boat and I'm seeing this red boat pointing really high, and I'm like, oh, I really want to try to get across this boat. I really want, and you're pinching then, right? Then you're gonna go slower. So again, but that's operator error,
Yeah.
right? That's how you're sailing the boat, not because of, that's not because of the wind direction. That's because you're getting frustrated by that wind direction because it's not allowing you to be in a position that you want in relation to the boats that are on the lifted tack. And so you're trying to, make the boat point somewhere where it doesn't want to, right? You're trying to head up. So it's a very, very common thing, right? So yeah, so then like that could be what people mean by that, like feeling like sticky, feeling like, because they're trying to pinch.
Yeah.
Right, and they're not just going fast. Because if they're just gonna go fast, yeah, okay, like, and we're in the same wind speed between these two boats, yeah, like this boat's gonna cross. But we're gonna be going at relatively the same speed. Yeah, great point, Ella, very good, very good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
okay. So for watching an enlightening video on ladder runs.
With
Yes.
the guy's voice is so monotone, it sounds like
The guy's voice is monotone.
It
yeah.
sounds like the
But-
first grade pacer test, but he was mildly alcoholic. It's like he's
That is very
drunk.
specific.
It's like he's the drunk. Like if the fitness grand pacer test guy was a little bit drunk.
Oh, which guy?
Fitness grand
pacer test.
You know
I don't
the-
know what that is. You didn't do that in school.
It's
It's
grand
like-
pacer, like the
Yeah, you like run back and
physical
forth
fitness test.
for as long as
Yeah.
you can.
Like the
You have like 2 lines and you have to run from one line to the other.
oh, we
and
call
you
that the
have, like,
shuttle.
Oh
run, I
no,
think.
but you
No?
do it for like as
less
long as possible.
time.
Oh.
Yeah.
You don't just do there's no blocks.
Oh, there's no blocks. Oh.
I mean, it is like the shuttle run, but
It's like the shuttle run. Okay, yeah, that shuttle run I've heard of. Yeah, I've done that.
But it just sounds like that guy's voice, but a little bit drunk.
yeah. With the is the same music in the background?
No, there's no
Weird-
music.
The
That was
weird,
funny.
like,
Great. Here we go.
Unfortunately, no. There's, it's just his
Back to the video. Well, wait. Somebody summarize what we've learned so far for Jeff.
If you're on the same ladder rung, you're gonna sail the same distance to the mark no matter where it is, if it's also like on a ladder rung.
That's math.
I mean, I've seen this video before.
Oh, you've seen the video?
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff.
Ladder rungs
Okay.
make it easy to understand how a wind shift makes you either gain or lose boats. With the wind straight down the course, A and B are currently even. If the wind shifts to the right, which boat will be ahead? To figure out which boat would gain, did you think it matters which tack they are on? Or does it matter where they are on the course?
What's the answer?
Well, they're on the course.
Where they are on the course. Buckle,
Let's
pay
look at
attention.
the answer using the ladder rungs. If the wind shifts to the right, the ladder rungs will shift with it, since
Okay.
the ladder rungs are always perpendicular to the wind.
So now, you see this? So now who is ahead?
Me.
B, right?
After the wind shift, which boat is on the ladder rung closest to the mark?
B.
The answer is B, since B is now more than one ladder rung higher than A, as you see here. It doesn't matter where the mark is unless one of the boats sails past the ley line.
Okay.
This shows us that boats closer to the shift will gain, so we always try to sail toward the next shift unless there is way more wind somewhere else.
Okay, so that kind of goes to what we were saying here, right? About, you want to be on the lifted tack unless for some reason there is significantly more wind somewhere else. Then you want to get into significantly more wind.
Take this further to understand who gains and loses most in a wind shift.
Okay,
This should be easy after the last
this
slide.
should be easy.
In this situation, if the wind shifts to the right, which boat will gain the most?
Okay.
Look at what happens after the wind shifts.
Now we've added more boats.
In the full ladder rung,
Uh-huh.
D has gained half of a rung. C has stayed on the same rung, and D has gone backward one rung.
They've gone backwards.
So the key message is, the boats closest to the shift gain the most. The boat furthest from the shift loses the most. And
Okay.
boats in the middle minimize gains and losses.
Does that make sense?
This is a good thing to remember when you're deciding how to position yourself during a race and how much risk to take. I'm going to leave you with some unanswered questions to allow you to apply your knowledge. Each of these questions can be answered by thinking about ladder runs. Discuss these with your friends, and if
Whoa.
you can't figure it out, go to Sales Inc. to look for answers.
If you can figure this out, here's
Good
what we want.
advertisement.
All right, let's see.
Why is getting to the ley line too early a bad idea?
We've talked about this.
Next question. How do I determine the favored end of the finish line?
Oh,
Last question.
last question.
Downwind, should I sail toward the next shift or away from the next shift?
That is a good question.
Let's summarize.
Okay.
We've learned that it's the wind
You got it.
direction and the ladder.
Okay, so, Makuro, does that, because I know, so specifically what Makuro and I have discussed is, or what the question that you had was, if the wind is, in this kind of situation here, right, where you had a starting line, right, boom, 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 right, and the wind is more to the left side, right? At least, I think one of the discussions you and I had was, or the questions that you had were, why is it that if you go, somebody that goes all the way to the right versus someone that goes to the left, why is it that, because you were saying it should be, if nothing changed with the wind, it should be the same,
Right, yes.
right? So what is the answer? So what is the answer to that now?
So now I guess,
And it starts from the beginning.
can I come on the board and kind of work through it?
Yeah, do it. But
Okay.
yeah. You can go forward, yeah.
Cause yeah, I think I have to draw some lines.
Oh, you stopped the video?
No, it's still.
Oh, okay, yeah. We wanted the video of you working through it.
Here's better angle of the video.
Oh, better angle. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, if the mark was here, then no matter where your ladder rung is, both of them would be the same, right? But
It doesn't
Ah!
matter where the mark is.
Doesn't matter where the mark is.
wait, no.
Where?
I meant
Hold
the
on.
wind. If the wind was coming from here,
Okay. Yes.
yes,
Correct.
then it wouldn't matter
Because why?
because it's the same ladder rung.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
But now the ladder rung is this.
Yes. So what does that mean?
So that means that
Right at go now. In this position, who is ahead? Are they equal?
no, the 3 is ahead
Yes.
because they're on a higher ladder rung. and
Yes.
they have to
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there's the answer. So the
Yes,
answer is,
yes,
right? So this doesn't, and we're assuming this doesn't change,
Right.
right? So just like this, in that first example that he had,
Mhm.
this didn't change, right? The wind is perpendicular,
Mhm.
they're on the same ladder rung.
Yeah.
That's why they sailed the same, right? That's why it didn't matter. Like, but here is like this.
Yes, yes, okay,
So automatically,
yes.
the boat that is closer to that shift is in front.
Okay, I see.
So they're starting in front. And if nothing changes, they're gonna stay in front.
Right, right, right.
Because they started in front. Because they started however many ladder rungs or whatever up.
Okay. I get it now.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's what. So that's why, right? So that was whatever it was last week or whatever. When yeah, I think it was last week when we did when we were racing with the JV kids, right? And like the windward mark was like all the way over here, but again the mark didn't matter.
Right.
It was, but the wind was also very left in relation to the line. And so the question was, it was like, okay, well, it's like why, so why was it so advantageous to start at the closer to the pin end, and why did the boats that start closer to the pin end always beat the boats that started closer to the boat? Because they started ladder rungs above
Right.
boats that were at the boat end.
Okay.
Right? Again, this is the assumption here is that nothing is then changing,
Right.
which is, not really, never really the case.
Right.
Right? But at least starting from here, this boat that's on the left. Now, what happens then? So obviously, right? So everybody tacks here, right? And then we're going up like this. So now if the wind goes back to the right, that means these ladder rungs are going to shift, right? And so now the boat that's on the left is not going to be as ahead. It's not going to be as many ladder rungs up versus boats that are farther to the right. And if it goes far enough right, at a certain point then, the boats that are farther right are going to be on a higher ladder rung.
Right.
If it went far enough, if the wind shifted far enough right.
Yes.
So, if the wind, that's why we say if we know the wind is going to oscillate, right? It's going to go back and forth. You want to tack, when we say tack on the first shift, you want to be able to get onto the first shift, right? So the first shift in this case, if the wind is to the left, means port being lifted, right? And you want to sail that, get on the lifted tack, as far left initially as you can get, because then, if the next shift is going to be to the right, boats that are farther to the right are going to be at more of an advantage than boats that are further to the left. Right? So basically, like if this boat kept sailing this way, right, on the header, right, and then they kind of and they let them cross, right, and then they tacked, this boat is gonna, if the wind does go right, they're gonna now be on a higher ladder rung, and then they're gonna tack onto the lift, right? And they're both gonna tack onto the lift, but then this boat's gonna still be ahead.
Right, yes.
Okay?
So this,
Go.
this makes sense, but I
Okay.
guess, this answers one of my questions.
Okay.
Just.
What's another one?
The other one is,
Yeah, you can erase whatever you have to erase. Yeah. Okay, and this makes sense to everybody else. Yes? Okay. Good.
so, I mean, say this is where the wind is coming from, right?
Okay.
What I still didn't understand is, I mean, this guy would have to well, no, never mind.
No, yeah, right. That's right, not like that. But.
Yeah, well, something more like this, I guess.
Stop doing that, please.
Okay, but this guy would have to go something like this, right? So I mean, yes, of course, the pin is favored as the starting point, right?
Mhm.
But as the course moves on,
Mhm.
like if you start out here, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter whether you tack onto port first and then go onto server, then do the other way, right? Because I mean, port is taking you to the right side of the course.
Port is taking you to the right side of the
Right.
course.
Okay,
Yes,
so
yes,
I mean,
correct.
okay,
Yes,
say
correct.
I'm
Yep,
about
yep.
in this position, right?
Yeah.
Why is going to port different than going to starboard? Because my question was that you would essentially have to sail the same distance. I mean, like, say I get into port, then I would get into starboard. Instead, the same thing for this guy. Like they use starboard first and then they get into port. Like if this is where I have to go, why is like going to the right?
Why is
side?
going to the right bag,
Right.
is what you're asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Initially.
Okay. What's the answer to that?
Is the wind coming from where the arrow is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have a longer ley line. Because like if you approach all the way from back there, you might be multiple, like 10 or so boat lengths from the ley line.
Yes, so you're definitely, right, so you're forced to, number one, you're forced to, hit the ley line from much farther away,
Okay.
right? So basically, right, where it's bad because if the wind stayed exactly the same, right? Same strength, same exact direction, and you had, so this boat is on a higher ladder rung than this boat. You're correct, right? This boat can tack off here, this boat can tack. They will sail the same distance then,
Right.
and they will get to the mark with the same ladder rung separation that they started with. So this boat will still be behind this boat.
Well, my question wasn't that like two boats starting off at different points.
Okay,
My question was more so, say,
Mhm.
I'm just one boat.
You're
and
one
now
boat.
I have a decision to make. Do I tack onto port or do I keep going starboard?
what do you mean just one boat? So,
Uh,
well, you need to
so
think
this
about
is-
other boats though.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, in making my decision, like, this is me.
Yes, okay,
So my decision is, I have two choices, tack onto port or keep going starboard. Now,
Yes.
why is going starboard more favored, other than losing some speed on the tack?
why is going this way, like,
Better than going this way.
because, okay, so if everything stayed the same, it doesn't matter.
Right, yes.
You're correct.
Yes.
Right. But what we're assuming is, because this is what happens, right, is that these puffs come in waves, right?
Yeah.
Right? So if these puffs that are coming from the left, they're coming down, so initially it'll come down and then like it goes away, then it comes from here. So it hits the wind hits the left side of the course first.
I see.
Okay, so, right, what's going to happen? And so if I'm more to the left, right, I'm going to get that wind before somebody that's farther to the right.
I see.
Also, right, I'm assuming I'm going to assume that I'm lifted on port because the wind is coming from the left. right? It might not always be the same degree of lift. Maybe the next puff, right, the next left shift that comes down,
Yeah.
maybe that's gonna be maybe it's gonna be like 2 degrees or 3 degrees farther left. And so I'm gonna actually be even more lifted, right, if I kind of keep going this versus over here.
Right, I see.
Right? But I think I get the I'm sailing towards the shift because I'm getting the wind. Number one, I'm getting the breeze before,
Yeah.
right? But then also, again, if the next shift is even slightly more left, then once I go and I tack, I'm gonna gain even more ladder rung wise versus someone that's farther to the right in this case.
I see. Okay. So
So I think you're correct that it doesn't matter if everything was, again, we're in a in a completely controlled environment, and you take away all these other variables, then you are right. It does not matter.
Right.
If the wind is here, if I go to the right first and I come up this way, or I go to the left first and come up this way,
Okay.
based on what we get, again, exactly what we were just saying, like it's the same distance that you're saying,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I guess the other question was,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, puff, like, we're going in this direction, assuming that, we get the puffs first,
Yes.
but they don't necessarily have to come from the same direction that the wind is coming from, right? Like, there could be a puff coming in from this
Absolutely.
direction or something, right?
Right.
So
That's
how
why
do
you have to
account
have
for
your
that?
head out of the boat. That's why you have to look.
So how do you account for those?
Well, so what I would,
I mean, I guess that's only your one variable, right, to stay to
Right.
the side.
so here's the thing. The ideal strategy, right, in this case, is so that's why we even try to figure out, like, what is the favored side of the line, right? Because you do get an advantage by starting closer to the favored end of the line.
Right.
So the answer is that if I want to try to get to the mark first, or in the top whatever, in this race right now, where this is what's happening, right? The wind is to the left. I don't want to position myself here. I want to be as far towards the pin as I can be in order to get a good start there. Because I want to tack and get onto the lifted tack, as soon as possible. Right? And we've discussed, so if I'm doing that closer to the pin, versus if I start all the way at the boat and I'm doing that at the boat that's at the pin has the ladder rung advantage. Right? And then both boats are doing what they should do here, meaning they should be sailing the lifted tack. So they're both sailing the lifted tack, that's good, except this boat has the advantage because they've started closer to that favored end, therefore ladder rungs above this boat. Because then now, if I'm this boat, right, and we both tack and we're both sailing, three things can happen here. Nothing changes with the wind. I'm still ahead of this boat. Right? We're sailing up here, right? I'm ahead. I'm between this boat and wherever the heck the mark is.
Right.
I'm ahead of them. So that's one thing that could happen. Wind stays static.
Right.
Wind goes farther to the left. That's option B. Right? So we get another puff. It's a bigger lefty, right? It goes more to the left. So we're both sailing on a lift. We both get more lifted.
Right.
Great for me. I'm still ahead. Right? I'm still in front. I'm still to windward of this boat, in between them and wherever the mark is. And we're both on the lift. That's option B. Option C, we sail. We get a right shift. Okay? We get a right shift. We're gonna tack if we get, because now we're gonna get headed if the wind goes to the right. Right? So the wind now goes to the right. That's the next puff, right? Next puff is a righty. Okay, so this boat is farther. They are closer to the side that the wind is shifting to, right? So that's good. So they will gain some back
Right.
on this boat,
Yeah.
but they're not going to gain everything back,
Right. Yeah.
right? Because what's going to happen is, so this boat tacks on the lift.
Yeah.
What is going to happen here? Even if this boat will be able to cross, right? Or at least get in a position where they can tack. And if they can't,
Yeah.
right? So let's say they were closer. So, boats that were that far separated, the boat that was farther to the left, even if you get a right shift, right? There's enough distance where they'll definitely be able to cross.
Okay.
If they were closer together, right? So this boat started in the middle, tacks away, this boat's over here, they're sailing, they both get headed. This boat tacks. Okay, this boat might not be able to cross, but this boat now tacks onto the lift, right? Starboard's now lifted. What this boat will do is lee bow them and then lead them to what the next shift will be,
Okay.
right? So always sail on the lifted tack, right? So the only time here where I would maybe, if I'm this boat, we get a righty, this boat tacks, I'm saying, okay, I can't cross, I'm getting headed. The only time I would want to duck this boat is if I don't think this is gonna, if I don't think the next shift is gonna be to the left. So when would that happen? This might be the case more at the top of the beat, right? So like the mark's up here. So we're getting close to the mark. Unlikely that if we're almost to the mark already, we get this right shift. Unlikely there's going to be enough time for another shift to happen. So I can treat this shift. Usually you want to treat shifts that are close when you're getting close to the windward mark, right? If a shift happens then, you treat that as a persistent shift. Meaning that this is the last shift that's going to happen before we get to the mark. So if that's the case, I don't want to tack here because I'm not going to get, I'm making the assumption that I'm not going to get a lefty then to then be able to come back in an advantageous position on this boat, right? And if I don't get a lefty, now all of a sudden I'm being held out by this guy, by this boat, right? Because they're to windward of me, they're on starboard, I can't tack into them, right? So they're good. So what I would do here is if it's at the top and I'm treating this, or if it's anywhere else on the leg and I just, for whatever reason, think that, it's gonna, if I go farther right, I'm gonna get more, it's just gonna be all right shift at that point. I would want to duck, and I would want to get further to the right of this boat, because now, let's say this boat is slightly under ley line. Let's say this boat's even slightly under ley line, right? But now we're sailing the lift, and again, no other shift is happening. I'm at the advantage here, right? Because now I'm coming up, so obviously if I'm making the mark, great, but let's say we're both not, we both have to tack. This boat can't tack until I tack, and if he wants to tack before I tack, he's gonna have to tack and duck me.
I see.
Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes, it does.
Right? So that's why you want to try to start as close to the favorite end of the line as possible. Okay, because you're getting an advantage the closer you are to that favored end. And the more favored it is, the bigger the advantage you get by starting closer to that end. Right? By more favored meaning, in this case, like the farther left the wind is, the bigger the advantage is to starting closer to the pit. If it's only like, a degree or two to the left of the line, it's favored, but not like by a crazy amount, meaning that a boat that's farther towards the pin than me, if it's only like 1 or 2 degrees to the left of the line, they're like maybe a fraction of a ladder rung in front of me, versus if it's 20 degrees, then a boat at the pin versus a boat in the middle might be 3 or 4 or 5 ladder rungs ahead just by being there.
Right. Yeah.
But again, the key is you still. So what you don't want to do here though is, right, if this is the wind is to the left and you're all headed on starboard, you want to be able to get onto the lift as soon as possible. You don't want to keep sailing the header here. Right? The only reason why you would do that is if you are sure that the wind is never going to shift back the other way. Right? Then you can dig in a little more and then tack. But most of the time, the wind is going to be some kind of, there's gonna be some kind of oscillations, right? So you wanna get on the lift attack as soon as possible in order to be sailing on the lift towards where the next shift is gonna be.
Oh, but this is good. This answers the question.
This answers the question.
Yes. Yes.
Good. Okay,
Great.
that was a goal. That was
Yes.
a goal because we've had a couple of conversations and I haven't done a good job of explaining it in those
It
conversations.
makes more sense to
So-
me when I kind of draw it out on the board and stuff.
Good, yeah, no, however yeah. Okay,
Yes.
this is good. So this is, alright, so let's go to the regatta, right? Let's go to the regatta this weekend. The Stone River Cup on Saturday. So, the two races that you won, right? And then would have been the third, you probably would have won the other one too, if whatever was going on with the other boat there.
Kai was blocking.
Kai was blocking you, right? But what happened in those starts? The wind did what?
It was,
Oh, you-
it
you-
shifted to the
You
left,
definitely
right?
know. Yeah.
And we just like tacked him.
It shifted to the left, right? A big left shift,
Yeah,
right? And you started, and you were more at the pin,
yeah.
right? And you were able to tack, and then you were able to just sit, everyone else is over here, right? Boom, 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 boom. And now you rode that lift for as long as you could ride it, but it did go at a certain point, like you weren't as lifted, it did go back a bit, but again, you were starting with a huge advantage
Yeah.
because you were starting very close to the pin. And so you had that ladder rung advantage right from the beginning. Versus somebody that, so I think what was it? I think in that last race that you won, and Kai and Sergey kind of were over here, right? And so they started at the boat end.
Yeah.
Again, on the lift, but they started on port or attacked on the port immediately almost, right? But again, there are so many ladder rungs below that we're sailing like this, and then again, at a certain point, you get headed, tack, but you're just so far ahead at that point that you can just get across them before then you also tack in that shift. And frankly, like maybe even what's happening here is like they're getting that shift maybe slightly before you, right? And you're even still like slightly lifted, and then you get into it, but you're slightly lifted to kind of get across them, and then you get headed kind of once you're already across, and then you tack, and then you're again still in that position. So what is the take home? The take home from this is try to start as close to the favorite end of the line as you can, while still getting a good start. What is not worth it, right? So what's not worth it is trying to like get a pin start, the pin is favored, and getting stuck on the pin, right? Or getting pinned out by people, right?
Like what Kai did to me.
What did he do that? Did he,
Yeah.
Oh,
twice.
with that.
He did
Oh,
it twice.
he did that. That was
me.
in that
Oh,
middle
maybe,
race.
maybe it wasn't your
One
one.
of
That was in that middle race you're talking about. Like they pinned you out. Like you weren't able to tap.
Yeah, what was it you? Or I don't know. I forget.
So here's why this is
Whoever
bad, right?
was just reaching across the line.
Yeah, that was
And
the
then
last
I-
race, right?
I think
Yeah,
it was
and then
Kai.
I had to.
Kai
I
was
just
reaching
I
across
just
the line at various
left.
points.
I just left and then went behind him.
Yeah, because so here's the
I
problem.
wouldn't have made the pin.
So here's the problem, right? So if you're to start at the pin, so great, we have a great position here. But now, if I'm in a situation where these boats don't tack,
Oh yeah.
and they're just being dumb, and they're just like taking me out to wherever, and now a boat that started, maybe, more in the middle or like, 3/4 of the way of the pin, was able to tack out. And now they're sailing the lift. boom, 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 boom. Now all of a sudden, these people decide, oh, we're getting super headed, we should tack, and they finally let you go. So they go, boom, you finally go. This boat has already made so many gains on you because they've gotten onto the lift and now they're just eating up ladder rungs.
And then it's
You're pretty much going, right? So again, the ladder rungs are like this, right? You know, whatever. Boom, boom, boom. You're going, basically, you're going like almost sideways here, ladder rung wise, right? Making very little to no progress ladder rung wise. Whereas a boat that gets onto port, onto the lift, right? When you're on the lift attack, you are making much better progress on ladder rungs. You're getting higher and higher and higher much quicker than a boat that's sailing the header. So the sooner a boat gets on the lift, they're going to be getting farther and farther and farther upwind versus a boat that is continually sailing the header. So that's why sometimes you don't necessarily want to try to win the pin if it's really, really, really crowded, and if it seems like there's questionable boats there that might not all just tack, right? Like if I'm in a good fleet,
yeah.
and I know that like, you know, everyone around me understands the situation, you know, then yeah, like I'll go for the pin, probably, because I know that these boats are gonna go. These boats are not gonna sit here and like literally point sideways and just keep going this way.
I think like the last,
What you can do is you can just yell like, let's tack guys, let's tack.
I think the
We're headed.
last race or
Yeah.
whichever one, like everyone kind of just collectively started on port. Like everyone was like, oh, we're doing port. We just
The last race in the regatta?
I forget. It was when there was a big left shift.
That was in that
And
middle
everyone-
set. That was in the middle
everyone basically
set.
started on
That was in the
port.
middle set.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was where like there was that one time where it went hard east.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was when everybody started on port. Because you, like, you
I
almost
started
couldn't make
on
it across the
starboard, but I
line.
immediately. Actually, I don't think I was gonna. I don't know.
I think you did. I think you like immediately tacked,
Yeah.
which is most people did too, because like you couldn't even really make it.
No.
on
Yeah,
the,
not really.
Okay, does that make sense? I think we belabored this a lot, but I think this is important. And I think we had some, Mockbill had some,
Wait, coach.
oh, no, what?
I have more question about the regatta.
Oh, good, go. Yeah, I was gonna talk about regatta stuff, but yeah, go.
Oh, okay.
No, maybe it was
So,
what I was gonna say.
one analysis I made when I was on the committee boat
Oh,
was
okay,
that
Go.
it was shifting back and forth, and it took about like 2 minutes. And it was very-
Oscillations, yes.
Yes, it was oscillating like every
Really,
2 or
and you were
3.
measuring the time?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
and it was pretty consistent with that time.
Really, was
Yeah,
it?
yes,
Holy
it was
crap.
very much
Wow,
so.
who knew?
Yeah. So what I did was
I guess
I
it was actually.
Yeah. So what I did was, so I realized it takes about 2 minutes. So like, you know, when at the 2 minute mark,
Mhm.
like I was trying to see where the wind was coming from, and it was from pretty much the left.
Okay,
So that's why I tried to, you know, I kind of predicted that it would come from the left at the start.
good.
So then that's why I started at the pin end
Pin.
on that like very last race.
This is good stuff.
Huh? Yes.
Yes.
And
And you were good.
huh? Yeah, I was good until like, you know, I hit Villanova.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that way, you were doing better in that race until you hit Villanova. That was just the operator error. Like that was.
I swear to God, I don't know where they came from. I still do not know where they came from.
They came from where they were coming from.
You're doing great until you cause a 5-car pileup on the I-95.
Awesome.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, so that's good.
Yeah.
Well, what's the
so,
question? Or is
yeah,
there a question?
then I think. So the question I guess I want to ask you is, how disadvantageous is like tacking back and forth? Because I was also like, you know, it was also very oscillating, so that's why I didn't want to go like to one side of the course or the other side of the course.
Oh,
So
like
that's-
to go all the way to one, all the way to the other.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So that's why I was trying to kind of stay in the middle. So then I had to tag back and forth. But then we were talking about it after the race, and Kai was thinking that it may be just because we were attacking so much.
Yes.
It depends how
So-
good your tack is.
I
It
mean,
does depend on how good your tacks are. Yes, if you can do good tacks, then you lose less by
Right.
tacking.
Also, if you roll,
yes, you still lose. You're still gonna lose a little. Every tack, you're still gonna lose a little bit. Like even if your tacks are perfect, like you're still gonna lose a little bit. So you do want to try to minimize. You don't want to do more tacks than you have to, right? And so if there's a lot of oscillations, sometimes what you might want to do is if they're very short-lived, right? Sometimes you might want to like just kind of skip one, right? Basically like, all right, like I'm headed now, but I know that like, you know, in the next like 10 seconds, I'm gonna get lifted again, right? So, or less than 10 seconds or whatever it is. So maybe I just want to stay. And then, all right, I'm headed now, but I know that in less than 10 seconds, I'm gonna get lifted again. And so I wouldn't want to, because in the time that it takes to tack, then you're gonna like tack and you're gonna be like, oh, like that shift may have then come in already. And you may be like, I thought I was gonna be, a lot of times that's what happens when you tack. You're headed and you tack, then all of a sudden you're like, I'm headed again. Like, how is that possible? If that's happening, that means that the shifts are coming in like very rapidly, and in that case, it makes sense to kind of tone it down a bit with the number of tacks you're doing. Like if you're tacking, and because you're headed, and then once you get going on the other tack, you're like, oh shoot, like we're headed again. You want to just stay on the tack that predominantly is getting lifted for longer, and just kind of ignore some of the shorter duration shifts. Particularly on a fairly short course, right? And I would say that was a fairly short course. I mean, it wasn't abnormally short, maybe for a college race, but it was not, it's not a super long, leg or anything. So I think, yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think you were probably tacking, too many times sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other question is, in those shifty conditions, is it like even if I made the calculation that at the start mark the like when you start the wind is going to come from the left,
Okay.
so port is going to be lifted and pin is going to be favored.
Yes.
Even if I made that calculation in those shifty conditions, is it better to just stay towards the middle, just so like I don't go to one
Yes.
side or the other side of the course?
Yes. You want to have options. You don't want to be too far out to one side or the other, because then you really could get screwed. And that kind of happened to several boats in several races, where they kind of just went too far to one side, and then the wind either died there a little bit, or it was just not an advantageous shift. So like in your situation there, right? What happened was, you started there, then you tack and you're sailing and you're getting lifted. Then obviously Villanova clearly started somewhere farther to the right of you, right, more towards the boat, and then they tacked onto starboard. Whatever it was, whether you were still lifted at that point or whether you were starting to get headed and they were starting to get lifted, whatever it was, you were not gonna end up crossing them. If you had seen them, what should you have done?
Try to tack in front of them and leave out them?
Yes, correct, right. What you should have done, if you had seen them, was lead out them and lead them, get on, because there's a reason why you're not crossing them, right? If you're still on a major lift here, very likely you're not going to get into this scenario. It's just going to be a clean cross for you, right? If it's not a clean cross, that means that there's some kind of right shift happening here. So because of that, and again, that was still, I would say that was like in the bottom third of the leg. right? So we weren't at the top, we weren't anywhere near the top yet. So I think at that point, it doesn't make sense to duck. It makes sense to end, because you know you had a lefty before at the line. Now they're in a righty here, as you went right, there was a righty. Logic would tell you, it's likely that there will be another lefty. So you would want to tack in front of them and kind of lead them to that shift. Now, if that lefty doesn't happen, worst case scenario here, everything stays the same. All right, if we don't, everything stays the same. As long as they're not on ley line, I'm still in a good position here. If I do a good lee bow, what may end up happening here is, in an ideal world, they end up kind of falling behind me, and now they have to either tack out to get clear air, or if they don't do that, they just go behind me and they go to leeward of me. You know, yep, and then even better, right? Because now I'm still ahead of them, so great. So the lee bow there is really good. If we're both, but if they, you know, if I didn't lee bow them well enough to get them behind me and force them to tack or go below me, right? And we're just kind of sailing here. If we're both not making the mark, I'm fine, because they have to tack too, right? And then, so if we're going up, going to the top here, it's like, great, all right, we're both shy on the ley line. We both have to tack. Oh, now all of a sudden, I'm good. Now all of a sudden, I'm in front of them. Now, if we get more lifted, the one situation here where if you tack below them, where you would get slightly messed up, right, or slightly at a bit of a disadvantage, is if the wind went much harder right, and all of a sudden, this boat is making it, right, and you are not. Okay, I mean, give it to them, right? I mean, it's okay, like, it happens, like, that could happen, right? So if that happens where, like, they're actually able to, and then you're just slightly short, and you end up having to do 2 tacks here, it is what it is. I mean, parts of sailboat racing are luck, right? So that you just, at that point, you just chalk it up to, all right, like, you guys had good luck there, good job, But again, I'm still right there. I'm still right behind them. So, all right, so if I have to do attack and attack, all right, so maybe I've, lost a bolt length or 2, but I still have the whole rest of the race to attack them, right, and to try to pass them. Versus if I duck them, right, sailed more, right, now they're sailing, and I kept going, now I tack, right, and I'm going to be even more boat lengths, I'm going to be more boat lengths behind them, right, from that duck, right, again, the only time that duck would make sense would be at the top. If it goes farther right, you treat that as a persistent shift, and then I and if they're not making it, or even if they are making it, right, I want to duck, because I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to kind of get on ley line and make the mark, because there's not going to be another shift. Or I'm assuming there's not going to be another shift. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, one of very quick thing, because it was in my mind, and I yelled at Jeff about it at the regatta, and I just want to yell at everyone else, not yell, but make sure everyone else understands this. Is, so, I don't know, we haven't really discussed a lot about gates, so like, I'm not, I've realized that my disappointment has to be, realistic, because turn inwards, that's it, turn inwards. With the gate, right? Gate choice is important. If I want to go to this gate, right? I have to be able to make sure, but I'm on this boat, so this boat the red boat has inside on me. I gotta slow down, and I have to get to the point where when this boat rounds, I can kind of be right behind them or slightly inside. What I can't do is be in a situation where I'm gonna get pinwheeled. If I'm in that situation, if it looks like there's no way I'm gonna be able to get inside. And the other gate is wide open. Go to the other gate. Okay? Because what's gonna happen here is by sitting here, number one, by trying to get in a position where you can get behind this boat, you're gonna have to slow down, right? Which, not ideal, but maybe okay, like if this is like super favored and you can do it. But again, the gate also wasn't that big. So I think you could, if the other gate is free and you know, oh wow, you look over and it's like wide open. I can get a perfect rounding at that gate mark. So I'm gonna split. And I can do that earlier, right? So I can say to myself, like, okay, like, you know, a couple boat lengths out, I don't have to do it at the very end. A couple boat lengths out, I can say like, okay, this isn't looking good. I'm not gonna be able to, likely not get a great rounding at this mark. This mark's free. Go to this mark, get a good rounding. This mark rounds here. If I wanted to go to this gate strategically, right, for a reason, what would that reason be? Well, because I wanted to go course, you know, to the left side on the upwind. Okay, so I had to abandon that briefly here by going to the other gate. Doesn't mean that I can't still go to that side. All I gotta do is what? Just tack, right? Boom. Okay, so I've sailed a little extra distance maybe than what I wanted to do, but I've probably gained a bit, maybe gained more than I lost, because I was able to sail in clear air, sail my own race, get a good rounding, and then tack immediately and start going towards that left side. Right? So if that left side was advantageous, right, what will happen here, if I do an immediate tack here, probably not going to lose much on this boat. This boat tacks, right, and let's say they're lifted because they went to that side because the wind's more to the left, right? I will almost certainly be able to get a piece of them. Right? Maybe I'll be able to get them on starboard. If I can't get them on starboard, I might be able to get close, or if it depends on what I want to do, right? If I can't cross them and get them on starboard, you know, then I can just tack, but still be close enough to them, right? And I can tack onto the lift and I can kind of go up with them. And then we get in the same situation that we were on the other side. If we get a righty, I'm in good shape. If everything stays equal, hey, I can tack first and get starboard advantage, right, at the ley line. And if the wind goes even farther left, okay, fine. This boat gets a bit of an advantage, right? And they'll definitely get to the mark before me if it goes super hard left. Okay, fine. But it's worth the risk versus being here, right, and just being in bad air, and then basically having no other option other than to tack out. Because then if I have to tack out, and if that was the right move, shift-wise, this boat's gonna tack, and now I'm not bow out on them or anything, right? I'm just getting covered by them the entire time, right? So always look at the other gate mark. If it looks like the gate that you're going to, you're not gonna be able to get a good rounding. Look at the other one and see if you can get a good rounding there. And then decide whether you want to tack and just go with the boat that went to the other one, or maybe things change and you're like, all right, maybe I want to actually, maybe it's a little better out here than I thought, and maybe I go a little bit and then I tack, or whatever. But at least, again, you have more options when you have clear air because you're able to go faster. And speed is, well, you're able to go faster and you're able to, I'm trying to go out of this man's thing. And you're able to, you're able to have your own, you can sail your own race versus getting dictated by others.